I want to start with a story about a woman whose entire idea of happiness came from other people outside, right? She believed that she was valuable and worthy when people said, oh, you look nice, or you did a great job on that thing, or, you know, congratulations. And when she heard that, that made her feel worthy, it made her feel valuable, and she thought that was what happiness looked like. And this woman also felt that the inverse was true, right? When people would say, oh, you don't look so good, or that didn't work out so well, or maybe if they didn't say anything at all, then that also made her feel unworthy, not valuable, unhappy, right? And so she was trying to pursue that happiness thing, always chasing happiness, and she tried to do it through the thing that she could control, which was her work. And so she would stick her hand up for every extra project. She would stay late. She would be the person who was available in the middle of the night for the emails and the conference calls. She would skip the family dinner in order to do the project that needed to be done the next morning, right? She would basically use all of her energy toward creating this thing that she thought was going to bring her happiness. And over time, she began to see that her friends were saying, you know, you seem stressed, you seem tired, you're never available, and her kids were saying, you know, you haven't been to the games, Mom, and what's going on? And she also began to feel frustrated. She began to see that she was gaining a little weight, and she was really struggling when she went to the gym to work out, and, you know, her skin was always broken out, and basically she was feeling stressed, and she was feeling unhappy, which was exactly the opposite of what it was that she was trying to accomplish, right? And I just wondered, does this happen for any of you? Do you ever feel like, oh my gosh, I'm working so hard to get this happiness thing, and in fact, it just makes me feel I'm chasing things that I have to do instead of what I want to do, and I feel stressed instead of happy. Does this resonate with anybody? Okay, good. So, fortunately for this woman, a gift fell in her lap. She was a regular at a local yoga studio, and the owner of the studio came to her one day and said, I'm going to sell the studio, would you like to buy? And she, I don't know, and she thought about it, and she ultimately made the decision to purchase the studio. And then some really interesting things began to happen. Some people who practiced at the studio came to her, and they would say, you know, this studio and yoga changed my life. And she'd say, what do you mean by that? And they'd say, well, my relationships are improved. I feel less stress. I feel happier. And so this woman began to see, well, maybe happiness doesn't come from those outside sources. Maybe there is another true cause for happiness. Maybe happiness comes from the inside, right? Maybe happiness was something that she could control. And of course, by she, I mean I, right? So I began at that point to start digging into what was the cause of this happiness that people were expressing, this change in their attitude. And I was researching and reading and listening to things at the work of neuroscientists and psychologists and religious leaders and philosophers. It turns out there are a lot of people who are trying to figure out, how do I get happy? And many of you may understand this, like maybe you already have what you would consider a successful job or a happy family, right? And yet still there's something going on in the back of your head a lot of the time that's sort of saying, I'm stressed and I'm overworked and I'm not as happy as I think I should be, right? So I'm here to tell you that you, and only you, and not your boss, and not your friends, and not your spouses, and not your kids, and not your dog, only you are in charge of your happiness. And all you need are the right tools to make it happen. And so tonight, we're going to work through 6 different tools that'll help you activate happiness in your own life at any time. You ready? Yes, enthusiastic, yes, that's good. All right. So this is going to be a fairly interactive session, as you know. So you all have pen and paper, You're going to need that. You've all found, hopefully, a partner that you're sitting next to who is somebody you may not know very well. So the third thing that's going to happen tonight is at various points I'm going to ask people to share what they've learned. Now, there aren't very many of us, so you are going to be ready to stand up. Everyone gets to share at some point before this is all over. So just get right out of your head this idea that you're embarrassed to speak out loud. Why? Because it turns out that the research on changing behavior and changing attitudes has shown that the more we process things out loud, the more we listen to others, the more we hear how others are experiencing things, the more we bring it in and can really absorb it ourselves, yeah? So get ready for that. So here's the first thing you're going to do. You're going to turn to your new partner, and you're going to introduce yourself. You're going to do first, middle, and last name. Date of birth, yeah, so month and day. Favorite flavor of ice cream, okay? And let's do favorite cheese, favorite kind of cheese, okay? So ice cream and cheese. The others are names and birthdays. So there are a couple of, so maybe you can join Joe over here, yeah, with that group, Linda, and just go. Go ahead and talk to your partner. Go.
Sure. Birthday is November 29th. Full name, Larry Rose. Larry's my dad's name. And till the month's life, I screwed. You know that? I rarely, yeah, okay. It's so boring, it's like cheddar. The good cheddar. Good stuff. Kill the cheddar. Yeah, so I'm not actually, I don't work for them. Yeah, probably should be good. That went through my mind too.
Okay, you guys able to wrap it up? When you finish sharing, bring your attention back up here. Nice, okay, very good. How's my group in the back doing there? Almost there. I wrote this down that this would take 30 seconds, but that's true. But people tend to talk given the opportunity. Do you notice that? It's good. All right, well, we'll jump ahead. So bring your attention back up here. So how many of you found something that you had in common? You guys had something in common? And you had something in common? Yeah, in the back, you had something in common? Okay, great. And how many of you would say that just this experience of sharing with one another has already made you a little bit happier? Just feel like your sense of, right, engagement in the room, you're just already, yes? Agreed? Good, okay, great. So you've all basically shared, or experienced rather, the first tool, and it's one of my favorites. It's the one that says, talking with strangers actually raises our happiness levels. And maybe you find this surprising. A lot of people do, right? Why would I want to talk to somebody I don't know? How could that possibly be enjoyable, right? It turns out, of course, that this has been proven in research studies. So there's these behavioral scientists from Chicago Booth and UC Berkeley who've done numerous studies on this idea of talking to strangers and how how people react to that experience. What they did is they put people on their commute and they assigned them into one of two groups, either don't talk to anybody or talk to the stranger next to you. And then they asked them, so what do you think? Do you think you'll enjoy it or do you think you won't enjoy it? And of course they all say, no way, I'm not going to enjoy talking to strangers. And then at the end, the overwhelming response is, I had a much more pleasant time when I did engage with somebody next to me who I didn't know, right? And of course this makes perfect sense, right? Because we're social creatures and we're happier when we engage with others. We're also healthier when we engage with others. So it turns out that loneliness and isolation, the physical impacts of those things can be as severe as the impacts of smoking and obesity. Right? So what's the takeaway? You should do this a lot, right? You should go out and just be willing to talk to people. Now, a lot of people are like, oh, I'm an introvert. I don't talk to people. But when you make this tiny little bit of effort, and then you do it again, and you do it again, like on the ski lift, or in the grocery store, or when you're standing in line at the bank, and you make this little effort repeatedly, you start to create a new neural network, a new pathway in your brain that says, okay, I am more open, right? More pro-social, more able to engage with others, and you find the experience even more enjoyable the more you do it. So, real quick now, let's start right into the sharing thing. Somebody, please share the thing you had in common, how it made you feel, and what's possible if you were to embrace this idea of talking to strangers. Can somebody share something they had? Yes?
So we had our middle names in common, which is my favorite because it's also my mom's middle name.
Oh, fantastic.
I think it's our grandma's middle name as well.
That's awesome.
And I like talking to strangers. I'll go anywhere and like chat with them, but I'm also super introverted.
Yeah.
So, like, I like to get my social interaction when I'm at yoga or when
Right.
I'm ordering food and I'll talk to people, and it does make my day better.
There you go. That's wonderful. Thank you so much. Anybody else willing to share? Giving one more. Anybody else have something in common? What did you guys have in common?
We're both Leos.
Oh!
But it didn't really change my feelings that much.
You still felt good? You already felt good.
Yeah, maybe for smart. I thought.
Actually, that's a really interesting lesson as well. It turns out that when we engage with others, they're able to assess cognitive function right on the heels of human interaction. And we know that cognitive function rises. You'll actually be smarter immediately after engaging. So if you want to do well in a test or perform well in a presentation, go have a chat with somebody. Sometimes with somebody you don't know, a positive chat. It'll actually improve your brain function within that period after. It's really quite interesting, right? But all of this, as I said before, is kind of about rewiring, right? We want to redefine, realign the neural networks, the synapses in the brain, to get us more in the habit of being happy, frankly. And so we're going to look next at a rewiring tool that'll really get deep. We're going to go deep right away. So many of you know this idea, perception is reality, right? And you look at this, I look at this, and I see two faces and some butterflies going overhead. And I see that and I believe it to be true. It doesn't matter what you tell me, that's what I believe, right? That is my reality. Yeah, you may see something else, but that's my reality and that would be your reality, right? And interestingly, the concept of perception as reality applies to how we see ourselves as well, right? So one might have this idea of who you are. Oh, I'm an introvert. Oh, I'm overweight. Oh, I'm an athlete. Oh, I'm, any number of possibilities that have become a perception of yourself, which you have ingrained so deeply that it is your reality. So I have had for years the perception that, I'm a fraud. This is a very popular one for women. I'm a fraud, right? If people only knew that I'm actually no good, right, then they would never invite me anywhere. But friends, of course, laugh when you say, oh, that's absurd, right? But it's my reality, right? And so whatever reality you're living with will come from this habit that you've created of experiencing your life in that way, right? And so what's really important here is that it is a habit loop that you've created in terms of how you think about yourself. So Charles Duhigg is an author of a book called The Power of Habits, and he provides this fairly well-known diagram, if you will, of how habits work. There's a cue, followed by a routine, followed by a reward, right? So in my case, if it's about, oh, I'm not going to be any good at this, the cue will be, here's an assignment or a project I need you to do, right? And then the routine is I spend my time comparing myself to everybody else, and I think, okay, they're better, that was better, mine stunk, theirs was good, right? And then the reward, which isn't even really a reward, right? That's the thing, it's twisted in the end, but the reward at the end is this like, okay, I verify that, yep, say they got a reward. I didn't get a reward. That, they were praised for what they did. I wasn't praised. It doesn't matter that the context is completely different. It doesn't matter that the circumstances don't apply. I can find ways to prove that I'm right? And so my habit repeats and repeats and repeats. So what we know about habits is that you have to do more than just break them, You have to create new ones. And what we want to do is create a new habit about who we are, about who I am, who you want to be, who you are. And one of the tools that's most effective for this is something that we call personal declarations or personal declaration statements. And what a personal declaration statement is it takes your desire or a statement of truth about who you want to be and brings it to the present and says, I am this now. Yeah? Because most of us spend all of our time saying, someday I will be, fill in the blank. There's a long list of things that we talk about someday. But the only way you really make change in your habits, in your perception of yourself, and therefore your actions and results, is to make it happen now. So this personal declaration statement is something that works really well to make the shift in the brain. And here's how it works. I, for example, had a story about myself that I was not really a leader. I was not really someone who made anything. I was just somebody who followed, and I would never be I'd never be a leader, That was a perception I had of myself. And it really gets in the way when it turns out that you want to try to make something if you're spending all your time saying, I can't, that's not who I am. And so my personal declaration came to me, actually, this story is kind of funny. It kind of came to me when I was getting changed one day, and it was really clear, like, this is what it is. And so I raced up to the mirror, and I stood naked in front of the mirror, and I said, I am a creator. I am someone who brings tools that help other people. I help others by helping myself. This was my declaration statement that I said out loud in front of the mirror, naked. Now, you don't have to do your declaration statements naked, but there is something very powerful about standing in your birthday suit in front of the mirror. So it's not something you should write off. But the concept of creating a statement, I am this, not someday that, I am a creator now. I bring powerful tools that transform people's lives. I help others by first helping myself. Now, these words may not mean anything to you or might not be relevant to you, or you may not even understand why I'm saying these things, but they mean something to me, and they help me understand who I am now. And so what I want to ask you guys to do is create your own personal declaration statement right now. So you're going to write down an I am phrase that might be something you've been thinking about that you will be someday, and instead make it present. I am this. Now, if you struggle with that, you're like, I don't know what that is. Maybe think about whatever the negative talk track is in your head that you tend to put yourself down with, and use the inverse of that, for your I am statement. So you want to be the positive today, not the negative. So take a few minutes, if you will, and just try this out. See if you can find the statement that stands for what you are now. Yeah? Okay. Are some things coming to mind for some of you? Yes, no, maybe so. You want it to be a statement that's present tense, right? It's now. You want it to be active. I am a creator, in that example. Yeah? Okay, good. So let's move straight into this idea of sharing what you may have come up with. I know it's a little weird since it's a brand new idea for some people. So if someone could just share what were you starting to write down, what was starting to come to mind for you as something that you would declare as your personal statement, why you chose that, and then how, or rather what is possible for you if that becomes your reality. Yeah? Who's willing to share? Thank you, Midge.
I am strong.
I am
Strong.
strong. Enough. Good. Yeah, great. Why that phrase?
Because of the physical challenges I've had, and just realizing that if I tell myself I'm strong enough, I can do the things that I want to do.
Yeah, yeah. And what would be possible when you live in that reality?
I think a lot more healing.
Yeah.
And confidence, self-confidence.
Yeah, that's great. That's excellent. Thank you so much. Does anyone else have one that they could share? One more? Thank you, Catherine.
I did. I am a leader.
Nice. And why that phrase?
Well, the last couple of years, I've been working on my master's degree, and I just got my master's degree. So
Congratulations.
Thank you. The whole thing was kind of leading towards that.
Okay, so what's possible for you if you're a leader now?
I think the other things that I wrote is give inspiration to others and help them to reach their goals. So.
Fantastic. Change the lives of others then. Yeah, that's amazing. Fantastic. Congratulations. That's great. Wonderful. Thanks for sharing, you guys. I really appreciate that. So what you want to do with this concept, and you may not have it right now, but you want to, if you can encapsulate this idea, you want to repeat it every day. You want to stand up in the morning, look yourself in the mirror. Again, you don't have to be naked, but you could stand in the mirror and say this phrase or phrases out loud. I know it feels really weird and woo-woo, right? But in fact, what happens is you are immediately changing your emotions, which change the way things fire and wire in the brain, which change attitude, which changes action. So it's a big cascade, right? And you'll find, like, if you're driving and suddenly you have this sort of, I don't know, maybe a sense that something is not right, or somebody annoys you, or they cut you off in traffic. If you make your declaration statement right then and there, it'll flip the feeling that you have right in that moment about who you are, what matters, right, and what can make your day happier instead of letting that poor person who cut you off bother you, right? Okay, so you have to create it as a new habit. That's the goal. So now, here we go. So now I want to talk a little bit about mind-body connection. And mind-body connection is something we talk a lot about in yoga, for sure. And it's something that's becoming a bit more of a mainstream concept because the science is starting to validate what many people have believed to be true for millennia. So, of course, we know that the brain controls the body. But what we're starting to know to be true is that what you think controls the body as well, right? Changes physically your body and your chemistry and which genes are firing and all kinds of interesting things. So people find that hard to believe. For example, take gratitude, right? Gratitude can be a mood, it can be a personality trait, it can be an emotion, right? We don't think of gratitude as a control system. It doesn't make my hand do something, right? But we do know, research shows that gratitude creates both physiological and physical benefits. So this research center brought together all the work that was, or a lot of the work that was done on how gratitude works and what impact we know from the scientific research what it has, right? So what we know is that people who have a greater sense of gratitude in their personality in a general sense, they sleep better, they have lower rates of heart disease, They also have lower rates of chronic illness, such as kidney disease, some cancers, diabetes, right? So there was a direct correlation, controlling for other factors, for improvements in significant physical behaviors with people who have greater gratitude personality traits, right? So let's test it out ourselves. So you can take your pens and set them to the side. You're going to put your feet on the floor, straighten your spine, let your hands rest on your legs. Yeah. Close your eyes, okay? And I want you in your head to say to yourself, I have to go to the grocery. I have to go to the grocery. I have to go to the grocery. And now, I want you to say these words in your head. I have to go. I get to go to the grocery. I get to go to the grocery. I get to go to the grocery. Right? Okay. Open your eyes. Can you feel the physical change in your bodies just from the change of the words? Do you guys feel it? No? Some? Yes? You should see it from here, because from here, have to makes your shoulders go like this, your mouth go like this, right? And get to, you all just sat up a little bit straighter. Some of you smiled. All from a change of the word of doing exactly the same thing, right? So, and of course you hear it in your voice, right? When you speak it out loud, I have to, your downturned voice, and you have this sort of irritation in your head and like annoyance, that's a drag. But then when you're like, I get to, suddenly it's an upturned voice, suddenly it feels maybe more optimistic, more of an opportunity, right? So literally changing one word in that sentence changes how you feel about what it is you're about to do. So this is your third tool. You want to rewire your brain from I have to I get to. And I'm suggesting you can rewire that literally everywhere in your life. Literally at every moment. I get to pick up my kids. I get to go to work. I get to go to the grocery. I get to spend time with my in-laws. Right? Whatever your version of that phrase is that you normally use the word I have to, you switch it to I get to, and you'll find that your attitude will change about it. Now, what's interesting about this and why does it make sense to think about this is because get to is in fact the truth. In other words, all of this stuff, the going to the grocery, the picking up the kids, the visiting with the in-laws, it's going to end someday. It just is, right? Someday your kids won't need to be picked up. Someday you won't have to go to that job. Maybe you'll go to another one. Maybe you won't go to a job at all anymore. Someday you literally will not have to go to the grocery. Right? Now that can sound a little morbid, but it's true. And when you understand the truth of that, then you can find more appreciation, more get to in everything you're doing. So what I want to offer you is the opportunity to practice, like every time you're at home with your spouse, with your kids, and you immediately say, I have to catch each other. Get to. I get to do. Yes, you do. You get to do that. And so what I want you to do right now is take your pen and paper and write down three phrases that you generally say, I have to. I have to do this. I have to do that. And then right next to them, write, I get to. So 3 of your most commonly have to's phrases, and see how they feel when you change them. Everybody find a few. Okay, who can really quickly just share? I have to do this, I get to do that, and how does it feel when you change it? Don't be shy.
Get up early.
Have to get up early. Ah, okay, good. Yeah. Any others that you had?
I get to go to Costco.
Yeah. Good. And what else?
I get to go to Walmart.
Yeah, that is shopping not high on your list. No. How do you feel when you change the word from have to get to? Does it change? Do you feel the change in the sensation you have around it? Just the physical sensation?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so.
And what do you think might be possible sort of in your mind if you take that attitude more often?
Just grateful that I get one more day to go to Costco.
Right. Yeah. A little more gratitude every day, right? Gratitude, it turns out, is happiness, basically, right? Happiness, in a nutshell, is about being grateful all the time, if you think about it. So here's another one that you get to practice. Practice being grateful. And lots of people hear this, oh yes, gratitude's a good thing. I have to be more grateful, right? What if you can change it and use this little tool? I get to, every day. Every little time you're thinking, oh, I get to. I promise you'll see that you'll feel a sensation in your body, and you'll ultimately start to rewire the brain, to rethink those things that normally bring you down, right? And can bring you up instead. Okay, so now we want to go inward, right here, to the lungs. Did you know that your lungs have a capacity of about 6 liters of air? So full lung breath, about 6 liters. And it turns out that as you sit here, breathing in and out, you tend to breathe in about 1 liter each time. So you only use about a sixth of your lungs capacity at any given moment, which is really, the whole thing about your lungs is really quite amazing. It turns out that the average human, the skin of an average human is about 20 square feet of skin, but you have about 1,000 square feet of lung tissue, and you have about 1,500 miles of airways in your lungs, right? So there's an amazing system right here. And of course, you need this because we have to get the oxygen to the billions of cells in your body, right? And of course, the lungs work with the heart. The heart's job, once the lung fills the trucks, the heart pushes the trucks along the highways and gets them to the places they need to go, right? So they work together. That makes sense. Heart activity changes with breathing activity. Now, what's the connection to happiness? So to understand that, you need to understand a little bit more biology. You may have heard about the 2 main nervous systems in the body, the sympathetic nervous system and the parasympathetic nervous system. The sympathetic nervous system is the one that prepares your body to react to stress. So when it experiences a stressful moment, it raises your heart rate, it contracts your muscles, it produces stress hormones, adrenaline, cortisol, that it fires into the body to get you ready to respond to stress, right? The parasympathetic nervous system is what's often known as the rest and digest. So the inverse of the fight and flight that we talk about as the sympathetic. Rest and digest system is the one that helps your body deal with the body at rest, right? So the functions of the body at rest cause muscles to relax, cause your heart rate to slow down, breathing rate to slow down as well. So what do we know about heart, lungs, nervous systems, and happiness? Well, what we do know is that when you are experiencing some rather consistent levels of stress, those stress hormones in the body and the level of adrenaline and cortisol, which is the longer term hormone that stays in the body, it stays elevated, right? And that stuff keeps your body at that fight or flight level on a kind of a low grade all the time kind of experience, right? And you don't get to bring the body's hormones, stress hormone levels down the way they need to be. And that, of course, has physical effects. So ultimately, that low-level stress impacts blood pressure, right, can lead to more heart attack, stroke, weight gain, because of course your body thinks it's in stress mode, so it's preserving nutrients as fat instead of using it and burning it up. So what do we need to do? We need to bring the stress levels down. One of the best ways to do that is by breathing, inhaling and exhaling. Big, deep inhales and exhales. They reduce stress, they reduce the stress signal, and stave off future stress reactions. But there's something else about breathing that's really important that you need to understand. It keeps you in the present moment. We have this other mistaken idea about happiness, that when I get, when I have, in the future, then I'll be happy, right? And I used this picture here of this unusual wood picture because it looks a lot like the wood that was on the table of my kitchen table when I was a kid. And my father used to sit me down and say, okay, Melissa, you see right here where the wood meets, like this is where you are. And what happens is you think, if I can just get to this point, then I'll be happy. And so you work, you get to that. And then you think, well, if I could just get to that point, then I'll be happy. And then you think, if I could just get, right? And it just keeps going and going and going. And of course, that's not where happiness lies. It doesn't lie ahead. It's in the journey. It's now, right? So we need to get out of the belief that when and someday are going to be the causes of our happiness, and we need to get into the present moment. And our breath is an incredible tool for bringing us into the now. Did you know, for example, that you get about 675 million breaths in your life? To me, that doesn't sound like a lot. Like there goes another one, right? Don't you want to enjoy every one of them, right? Appreciate each one? So that cute dog on the far picture there, that's my dog named Mila. This is right at the point where I'm about to throw the ball, right? And she is like so in the present moment, like right now, where's that ball going? Nothing else matters, right? To a certain degree, we want to figure out how to achieve that level of engagement with each moment in our lives, because that's what will bring you happiness. So we're going to practice this idea of happiness and breath and breathing, because it's the tool to calm the sympathetic nervous system, to help us be present, to enjoy each moment. So let's do it now. You're going to put your feet on the floor again. Yeah, lengthen your spine, close your eyes. And now I want you to imagine that your lungs are divided into 3 parts. And you're going to take an inhale and fill up your lungs 1/3 of the way. And then pause. And then fill up 2/3 of the way. And pause. And then fill your lungs to their full capacity. Really breathe in, really hold at the top. And then send it out. And then do that again. Fill up 1/3 of the way. Pause. Fill up 1/3 more. Pause. Fill up full lungs. Hold. And exhale it out. One last time. 1/3 of the way. Fill up. Pause. 2/3. Pause. Full lungs. Hold. And send it out. Nice. So open your eyes. Do you all feel the body kind of calm just through the exercise of breath? Do you feel that? As it turns out that doing that kind of a breathing exercise, say even right before you have a big meeting or a presentation or some nerve-wracking event, will bring the stress levels down, and it'll bring you into this moment right now. Yeah? Here's the thing. You can use that tool before you go to bed at night. Slow the nervous system down before you to help you fall asleep. You can use it right before you do something important, right? But the idea of focusing on your breath and staying attentive and using your breath as a tool is one that you have right there all the time, just waiting for you. So will anybody share how the breathing makes you feel? Somebody stick their hand up and say something about how that exercise changed your feeling and sensations in your body. Anyone? Thank you.
I struggle with anxiety, and breathing is something that really helps me feel grounded.
Yeah.
Feel like bring me back to the present rather than kind of up in my head.
That's so excellent. Do you make use of it on a regular basis like that? Excellent. That's so great. Congratulations. Well done. Yeah, it's a tool that we just have, and people don't realize they have it. They don't take advantage of it, right? It's right there all the time. A lot of the time we're walking around like this, and all you need to do is breathe, you know? Okay, so now that we've calmed our sympathetic system, we're going to go deeper. We're going to go into human connection as a source of happiness. You really only need to look in your own life to know that human connection is really what makes us happy, right? Connecting with others. This is a picture of my mother behind me and my uncle in front of me. And both of them are fairly recently single. My mother was widowed a year ago. My uncle is now separated. And we were all together at the holidays. And the one thing that both of them spoke about repeatedly was feeling lonely, right? That the hardest part of being solo was just lacking human connection. And it's just every day an issue. It's what makes us happy. And there's endless research on the importance of the human connection, both for our physical and mental well-being, right? As well as for the development of children, for example. Now, one area that I find particularly interesting is around increasing size of homes due to actual average wealth in an average family, and decreasing size of families. So did you know, for example, in 1973, the average number of square feet per person in a house was about 500. It was about 507 square feet per person in the average house. 40 years later, the average number of square feet per person is almost double, almost 1,000 square feet per person. In 2015, actually, was the study was done. Okay, so that's awesome, right? Because now you have your own room. Oh, and you have your own TV, and you have your own bathroom, and you have your own playroom, and so you never have to sit down as a family to figure out what we should watch together on TV. You can all go to your own rooms and watch what you want to watch. And the brothers never have to figure out how to get along because they're sharing a room, because they're not sharing a room anymore. You can just slam the door and shut your brother out, right? This is actually something that happens in my house. So it's luxurious and it's nice, but it's lonely, actually. It exacerbates the separation, right? And frankly, technology is doing the same. Those little devices that we carry around make it much easier to call rather than meet, much easier to text rather than call, much easier to play a game remotely than to go down the street and play a game in person, right? For my kids, for example. Now, I'm not saying that everything about technology is bad, and I'm not saying it's not nice to have large rooms in your house. It does make people happier to have space. But what we miss out on, and the downside of all of that, is the distance that it creates between us, right? The lack of connection that used to be elemental to our lives. And of course, that physical connection just really isn't replicable on devices. So, oh, by the way, they've done research about how important it is to mirror the expressions on someone's face in order to have like empathy with them, right? To have that human connection it creates empathy. We sit across from one another, we talk, we mirror each other's expressions. And it turns out that if your face is immobilized by virtue of like Botox, literally people are unable to make the expression of the person they're sitting across from and are unable to recognize expressions because they can't make them themselves. So I was horrified when I heard about this. The trouble was I couldn't make the horrified expression because I just had my first round of Botox. So now I'm not really sure if I want to continue down that path, because it's fascinating how important it is to look someone else in the eye, right, and be able to experience the empathy and what they are feeling. And now we're going to try that. You're going to stand up. You're going to face your partner. We now have an even number. Yep, stand on up. Some of you may have done this one. You're going to face your partner. You're going to look into your partner's eyes, yeah, for 60 seconds. Yeah, and it's going to make you feel really weird and really awkward, and you might make funny faces and feel embarrassed, and don't worry about it, yeah? So just, I'm timing, look into each other's eyes, go, 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 go. So just, you do want to be silent. You want to look into each other's eyes and see what you see. Nice job. Now you can have a seat. Was that the most awkward 60 seconds of your life? And yet, did you begin to feel something like a deeper connection to the person whose eyes you were looking into? Yeah, yeah. Did it make anybody start to feel a little bit emotional? Like that can sometimes happen too. Like you start to feel a little bit. Yeah, it's very intense, right? Can somebody else share how you felt? Yeah.
So I actually done that before.
Yeah.
The New York Times did this whole study. Have you read it?
I have, yeah.
So it has this whole like questionnaire of like 23 questions that ask someone to make them fall in love with you, and then you stare into their eyes for 60 seconds. And I did this with someone I was dating. It was great, and then we broke up later, so it wasn't great. But it works.
Works sometimes.
Yeah. It's a really vulnerable thing because you wanna like, I don't know, take the awkwardness away or like look away, diffuse it away, and you can't, and you just keep looking into their eyes.
Yeah.
And so it's like, it's interesting, and it led to a lot deeper talks in that relationship and different things, but.
That's fantastic, though. That's really interesting, right? Because does anybody else experience the sense that, okay, now I have a connection with this person, maybe, you know, it opens the path, right, to greater engagement with somebody, and that's what makes it how it turns out. Now, I know, by the way, this one is hard to do at home. You can't just grab people on the street and like look them in the eyes for 60 seconds. But I do want you to take away from this the idea of paying close attention, right? To be focused on whomever you're with. So the next time you're having a conversation and your desire is like, I gotta look away, I gotta do something else, I gotta look at my phone, right? See if you can commit to the conversation. See if you can be there and give that person the gift of your attention. Because there really is no greater gift that you can give than your attention. Because what do we all want, right? We want someone to pay attention to me. Show me that you're listening. Show me that you care about what I'm saying. So if you can give that to somebody else, you'll start to see it come back to you as well. And it'll rewire the way you think about, right? Because our current world wants to draw us away. Like, I gotta do, I gotta go, I gotta do, I gotta phone, I gotta da. Breathe, slow down, connect. Excellent, thank you. So far we've met strangers. We have connected with them on a deeper level. We have turned from I have to I get to bring some gratitude into our lives. We've learned how to calm the fight or flight by deep breaths and helping us to stay in the moment, right? And we've created some personal declarations, or the beginnings of them, to help bring the future to now, so that you can rewire your brain around who you want to be, the happier version of who you want to be, right? So there's one last tool I want to leave you with. And this one is, I think, the most impactful. It's both the hardest and the easiest to do, which is odd. And if you do it, it will really make drastic change in your life. So think about the fact that you might wake up in the morning, one morning, and you feel good. You slept well, you wake up, the sun's out, like, feel happy, right? And then suddenly you remember, oh, I have to go to that meeting, go to that meeting with that person I don't like very much. And you've gone from happy and looking forward to suddenly annoyed and irritated, all in a millisecond. So we know that changing our minds is possible just by those examples. The question is, can you control it, right? Can you make that change happen on your own? And this is where Buddhist philosophy is quite interesting. The Buddhists will say that if you believe that things that are out there, the meeting, the person that you think is not friendly, even the positive things, the car that you just bought, or the shoes you want to buy, or the party you're going to go to, right? If you think that those things out there are in and of themselves positive or negative, then you misunderstand the true nature of reality. The Buddhists would say that all reality is constructed in your mind. You make the choice to place the idea of good or bad, happy or sad, on the things that are out there. They are empty until such time as you put that feeling on them. Yeah? So what does that mean? The good news about that is that means you can take control of how you interact with the world. It is your choice as to whether or not that meeting is going to make you feel bad, or that person that you have to do that project with is going to irritate you. That's your choice. It's not them inherently good or bad, right? This picture is of a book called Happiness by Mathieu Ricard, who's a French man who is now a Lama who practices in Tibet, and he's actually the French translator for the Dalai Lama, and he's written a number of wonderful books, and you can see from the way I've marked this book that it's filled with lots of stuff that I think is really valuable. So if you're interested in going a little deeper into this concept, that's a wonderful book to do that. But he brings in this book this idea of recognizing how you can choose positive and negative, and we're going to practice that right now, okay? So back to pens down, feet flat, hands on, resting on your legs. Take a big breath in and a breath out, and then close your eyes. So I want you to imagine that you have just boarded a plane on your way to a strange city where you are about to take a new job. And you're on this plane, and suddenly you experience turbulence. You start to feel the plane shake. You start to feel you can see that the wings of the plane are rocking up and down, and you start to get agitated, and you start to get nervous, and you feel like the plane is going to crash, and you feel worked up and worried and frustrated and scared. And then as the turbulence starts to settle down, you start to feel uncomfortable. The seat's too small, your back's sore. Why do they make these so darn close together? And why, by the way, has the air hostess not brought the drink that you ordered, and you're feeling annoyed that she hasn't come, and you're thinking ahead to this job that you're about to take, and you're thinking, I don't know if these people are going to like me. I don't think they're going to respect me. I don't think they're going to appreciate what I have to offer. I don't even know why I took this job. Now feel how that feels in your body, that sensation that's related to all of those pessimistic emotions. And then let's flip the script. So imagine you've boarded that plane and the turbulence starts. And as the turbulence starts, you think, okay, this is a part of plane travel. It's going to happen. And as the turbulence calms down, you can think, okay, I'm grateful I get to live another day. I can make the best and the most out of every day that comes my way. And even though you're feeling a little uncomfortable in your seat, you're able to adjust your position so that you can relieve some of the stress in your back and in your legs. And even though the poor flight attendant has to take care of the whole plane and stand the whole time, you're grateful that she's brought you your drink with a cheerful smile and has been pleasant to engage with. And you start to think forward to this job that you're about to take, and you think, I have a lot to offer in this job. I'm looking forward to meeting some interesting and engaging people. I'm sure there'll be wonderful ways for us to work together and create amazing results in this new job. So now notice how you feel in your body when you feel this optimistic, positive sensation of the exact same experience. Can you notice that simply by shifting your state of mind, you can experience two very different states of being, all by changing your attitude in your brain. The outer situation was exactly the same. Nice. So open your eyes. This is a kind of a twofold exercise, right? One is this exercise in seeing how you can literally shift your perspective in any moment. And the second is this opportunity, idea to actually sit down and watch the nature of your mind. We call it meditation. There are many types of meditation, and there are many ways that meditation is used. One of them is to help understand the nature of your mind and to understand that you have control over the nature of your mind. You have this opportunity to pay attention, to notice when you have negative thoughts, right? And to change them, to deliberately shift them. And so I've found that I practice this, right? This is like rewiring the brain again. You're driving along and suddenly like, oh, God, like, so you can use any one of these tools. Oh, wait, I get to. Oh, wait, I am this person. Oh, I can see this in a different way. Tool to really go from the default, sometimes it feels like a default state, right? That we just occupy, that sunken shoulder, that have to, that things aren't great, right? To the person you want to be every day and the experiences you want to have every day. And so this all takes us to the conclusion, which is really that there's one lesson out of all of this. And it's one that I learned from this man. This is my father. He always said, Melissa, happiness is an inside job. It's not out there with your work. It's not out there with pay raises and promotions. It's not out there with the fancy shoes, right? It's an inside job. And so there are three sort of mistaken ideas about happiness that we've explored today. One is that it's caused by somebody else, right? Two is that it's out there somewhere in the future. And the third is the failure to see that things are in and of themselves not the cause, or that to see that things are in fact empty, that they are not in and of themselves negative or positive, right? All of which to say, you are the source of your own happiness. You, each one of you, are the cause. And you now have some real tools to use. You can talk, you can go deep, you can declare your future now, you can get to, right? Breathe, live in the present, shift your perspective. These are all things that once you become cognizant of them, you can use them literally in every moment. You have to create your happiness by changing your mind. And the more you change your mind, the more you'll change your life. And so I've tossed in one last idea here that I know my father would have loved. If it's human, it's mentionable. If it's mentionable, it's manageable. If you haven't seen the Mr. Rogers movie, go see it. That's where this comes up. It's really wonderful. But I want to make sure that you know that you shouldn't forget that everything in your life is mentionable. And everything in your life is manageable. You just want to use these tools and the connection with others to get you there. I hope you found these tools helpful. Do you guys all find them sort of useful? Any of them maybe not brand new, but bringing them together in a way that seems useful for you? Yeah? Yes, yes? Don't all speak at once. Okay, speak up. Excellent, good. And of course, if anybody wants to go deeper, we're going to go to Miami and we're going to do more work on this happiness stuff, like for about an hour and a half every day, right before we go to the beach. And then all of this is available. I've created a toolkit out of this. You can download it on my website. So tadasana.yoga/Melissa Garland. And maybe you guys can all give that a go and see what you think. Yeah? Thank you so much for coming. Congratulations to you.